Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. It is indeed a wonderful time just to gather around some reflective concepts that really shaped a lot of the thoughts of our founding fathers because they literally gathered in taverns. No, it wasn't drinking halls, it was places to eat, places to gather, places to think about things that truly mattered. And one of the things that I am very passionate about is understanding how abundance can truly shape our minds. But it can also be that abundance is misread, which is truly a leadership paradox. Matter of fact, I do a lot of Bible study reading, and I've been in the book of Job a fair amount. And it's really interesting when in chapter 11, Job in 9 and 10 has been giving utmost agony and complaints per se to God. But one of his friends, Zophar, in chapter 11, verse 2, says, "Should not the multitude of words be answered? And should a man full of talk be vindicated?" Those surely were not Job's words. They were his critic, Zophar. Now, I don't know about you, but if you have a friend that tells you basically, you know what, your words don't deserve to be answered. And matter of fact, you might as well quit talking. I don't think I want that type of friend around very much, especially since Job has had profound wrestlings with all his sufferings. And now he's being told that it's just excess talking. But what if that abundance that Zophar criticized was actually Job's greatest strength? Matter of fact, let's go back to 1865. Just days after Lincoln's assassination, the very newspapers that had actually criticized and attacked him changed their tune. The New York Tribune, which had criticized his excessive patience and his indecisive abundance of mercy, now actually suddenly, well, quote, his very faults seem to flow from an abundance of his good nature, which his enemies mistook for weakness. Oh, the leadership paradox. Lincoln's critics misread his thoughtful deliberation as indecision. They also mistook his inclusive approach as weakness. His patience, well, his process of everything was labeled as inaction. And yet his abundance preserved the Union and freed millions. When Job poured out his authentic anguish in beautiful, complex language, Zophar, his wonderful friend, only saw it as babble. Now, as Matthew Henry observed, when we cannot understand the abundance of another's heart, we are quick to label it as only excess. I don't know about you, but when I've done that, it hasn't come out real good for me. And how about when our leadership abundance has been misunderstood? What is it like on the reverse side of when we do it for other people? What is it like for us? How about when do you ever simplify your approach just to avoid criticism? And what if your thought process is seen as weakness, but truly it's actually wisdom? Ironically, our founding fathers had the same dynamic displayed in 1787. Our founding father critics were often said to have, well, deliberated constitutional convention process? Yeah, sometimes it was considered endless debate and paralysis by committee. You can only imagine what was going on in that room where they were there for 4 months, wrestling with every word, every principle, every check and balance. Critics called it excessive, but history calls it genius. The modern day challenge, well, today, fast forward 250 years, pretty near, we live in the freedoms of their abundance. But here's the question. How many of us actually understand the depth of what they built? How many leaders today know the constitutional principles that should guide their actual decision making? That's why today I am 3 weeks away from hosting Constitutional Live, where we will discover many different things. But 3 of them that stand out to me are how our founding fathers used patient, principled leadership to create lasting change. Second of all, we'll find out why understanding constitutional principles strengthens our leadership foundation, and what a foundation they gave us to be able to exist on. It's been going for 250 years, and Lord willing, we'll have another 250 years. Third, we'll also understand how biblical wisdom shaped the very framework that we've been given today. And yes, it was based on biblical principles. Because when leaders understand their foundation, they can better navigate criticism with staying true to their principles. I don't know about you, but I know that when I understand principles, I can better navigate not only my own life, but the lives of those around me. And I can help understand how to be based in principles and give true guidance to those around me. The next thing that I want to offer is contemplative music and pictures that have questions for all of us to consider. And I'll come back at the end of it, because I want to make sure that you know that Constitution Alive is coming and that you can definitely be a part of it. For now, let's watch the video that I've prepared for you. And all of the video are AI images that I have generated that will be available in my store, eventually on my website, which is coming along shortly. Again, my wife and I are working diligently on it. Technical things keep coming up that we're fighting through, but we will get it out to you very soon. Stay tuned to all my social media. But in the meantime, let's watch the video. Thank you again for coming tonight. It is my joy and my privilege to have shared with you tonight on the topic of abundance when it is misunderstood. And the reality is, we've all misunderstood abundance at some point in our lives, and we've had it misunderstood when our abundance is misunderstood. But our founding fathers definitely had it misunderstood. But yet they stood strong. They stood for principle-centered leadership. And I can't wait to have you join me in a Constitution Alive mastermind for 10 weeks, where Rick Green, I should say, and David Barton and Tim Barton and many others who are associated with Wall Builders and Patriot Academy will teach and train us on what the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence says, that has lasted for 250 years and has many, many, many more years to go. Follow me on social media, and you'll see the actual link to be able to register on the Patriot Academy website. Soon, my website will be up and running. You'll have a whole lot more to look at besides my offerings with Patriot Academy. I look forward to getting that website out to you. Again, stay close to my social media. It's not like I hide. I'm very visible on the 5, 6, 7 platforms that I'm on. So thank you again for attending tonight. If you have any questions, feel free and reach out. Thanks again for everything. And with that, good night. God bless.